What a wonderful, charming, and powerful guest today, Josh Moffie. Really high-speed young man with tremendous character, and his journey through the Citadel, football, Iraq, deep military service, and eventually the reinvention of himself, going to Masters of Business for Veterans program, and eventually being one of the co-founders of Trident Coffee. This journey contains a tremendous amount of really, really valuable information about our culture, about honor, about reinvention, and a through line of purpose. So don't miss this episode.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Winner Folsom Podcast, your source for battle-tested leadership and resiliency. Philip, why don't you introduce our epic guest for today?
Yes. Hey, Joshua Moffie, one of my, it's a guy that I've been looking forward to getting on this podcast. I know we've been kind of dancing around each other for a long time, looking for something to partner with. And that's a rare thing for me. When I see another person, particularly another man who's good at being a man and is also a good man. Like, that's a rare little combo in today's world that, is a heroic combination, goodness and power. That's a rare thing. And I first met this man at the USC Masters of Business for Veterans program. And this is a reintegration transition entrepreneurship program run out of USC. And also see you down at Gold's Gym a lot, getting jacked. And you started a really epic company, Trident Coffee. All of the lessons in that story are things that I can benefit from, and all of the audience who are looking at either transitioning, finding meaning and purpose in their life. How do we claim, own, and accelerate all the warrior cred and culture and create a blast radius within the civilian world? These are all big topics, and you're kind of walking that path, man. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure to be here. Totally agree. Can't agree more with what you guys are seeing out there, and the resiliency that's involved to be a man, to be a positive man in this world today. So excited to be on here and share my story and everything with a couple of the good men.
There you go. Hey, so you want to talk about military background? You want to talk about before we go into the Trident Coffee? I'm kind of interested in both.
Yeah. We can talk about, I guess, who Josh Moffie is and where he started and what have you, right? My military background is it's definitely different than most people's, where you either get into a military academy like Joshua, or you enlist and you're active duty, or you follow your father's footsteps, or what have you. I'm completely opposite of that. I didn't have too much of a background in my family in the military. My grandfather was in World War II. But he never talked about it. We never talked to him about it. My father didn't serve. None of my uncles really served. It wasn't like a big thing that was really talked about. The most I knew was my dad liked, John Wayne, and we'd watch like some of his World War II movies, and that's about it.
And hey, there's something about those fucking trucks too. Those John Wayne movies. Those canvas covered.
The old
Deuce and a Half trucks.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid watching those John Wayne movies, going like, I want to drive one of those trucks. I want one of those trucks.
Those are good trucks for sure.
Those movies probably got a bunch of us in.
Yeah. So. John Wayne got a bunch of us do a lot of things. John Wayne, come on.
Yeah.
But so the thing with me, how I got kind of introduced was through football randomly. I was a decent football player in high school, good enough that the Citadel Military College wanted me to be on the team, and they were the biggest college at the time recruiting me. And my father was like, "Hey,
hey, for the folks who don't know the Citadel."
Yeah, so the Citadel, it's a military college, but it's not an academy like the Air Force or West Point or what have you, the Naval Academy. But it's a military-esque college that's in South Carolina. You're still wearing uniforms. You're learning all that kind of stuff. But you have the option to join. And the way you would join you'd go through ROTC with a branch and then go in from there as an officer. But there's a lot of people that go to the Citadel that don't join, and they just want it for the camaraderie and the discipline and the pedigree that the Citadel offers, especially in South Carolina. It's a very big thing down there. So, I was a Yankee from Ohio that was kind of pampered and from a small town, and ended up having to go to the Citadel, kind of, I mean, whatever. My father was tough and he wanted me to go there, and I ended up going there, right? Played for a year, had this whole culture shock of being down south and the military and getting away from my comfort zone of being like the big time, team captain, dating the head cheerleader, what have you. And now I'm like a nobody in the South. And what the heck am I doing? I'm in the military, I'm marching around. I don't know what this is. Suffice to say, I didn't like it too much, but I did love football, and I was going to try my best, because that's what I do in everything I do, is just hunker down and get through it. And I knew that from like day one as a kid growing up. That's like what was instilled in me.
Hey, that's from your dad.
That's from my dad and my family, and just like, just a very male dominant family. The Moffie family is so very male dominant. Things like that were kind of instilled the right way and also the wrong way, right? And it kind of left it up to us to decipher which path to follow for my brother and I, my sister. But yeah, long story short, to Citadel, I played for a year, ended up getting a little injury, and like more so just didn't like it so much and was homesick and all that, and left. And after I left, I went back into my hometown college, got back with my like high school sweetheart girlfriend. And after like a month of that wearing off, I went, what the heck did I just give up? I just gave up this big college, this military thing, football, like, and I'm back home. What am I doing? And I ended up kind of, beating myself up, drinking a little too much, like getting in trouble. And I realized that everybody from the Citadel, all my guys, that my classmates at the time, kept sending me notes all the time going, we miss you so much. We miss your leadership. We miss your discipline. Like, we need you so bad, blah, 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 to get through this year. We hope you're doing well, like all that kind of stuff. And I realized like I was good at, I guess, I don't know, leading people and empowering people and like figuring out what that even meant in the first place. Like I did it on the football field, sure, but doing it in a different way, it was just new to me. But I knew there was something there. And I didn't even tell my family. And I ended up walking in. I didn't even really research much, right? And I walked into the Air Force recruiter's office and joined as a reservist at the time. And there was the start to like my Air Force career. And that was right during it was like the last couple of years with Bush during the surge. So I ended up leaving for like a year and a half for training, got into security forces, which is like an MP for the Air Force, came back from Texas, came home 4 months later, went to Iraq. So like, it was like boom, boom, boom. And that kind of was like a real quick kickoff into my military career, which led from that into a few more years in the reserves, got back from Iraq, didn't even take a break, went straight into a middle semester of college, which was hilarious, by the way, because I would walk into the classroom and they were so terrified of me, like no one would even talk to me. And I didn't even know where I was either. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to get here and I'm not going to take a break. I'm just going to keep my head down. I'm going to charge through because that's like all I know. And ended up studying, and my teachers were great. They're like, hey, you don't have to do an assignment until you're ready to do an assignment. So it was one of those things. Powered through college, stayed in the reserves, did a lot of like, they call it like temporary duty stuff with the reserves while I was getting through college, and then came out to California because I've always wanted to live out here and, use the Air Force as a conduit to kind of get out here, and did that, joined an active duty component within a reserve base with California, did that for 5 years, and then, so basically what I'm saying is reserves, active duty, reserves, I kind of had this weird career, but a great career with the Air Force. And it all started with the Citadel and kind of figuring out that I was good at this leadership stuff and people would listen to me. So
how'd you hear about the MBV?
The MBV program, that was just digging. So, again, my mind works in mysterious ways. I always push myself, and it's good and bad. I always am saying, Josh, you can do more. You can do more. You can do more. And once I did well in the Air Force, and I was very good at the military, very good. Moved up rank real fast. Ended up getting out as a master sergeant, but I could have made it to E9 easily. I was set there. But what's cool about my family is they didn't have really that military background. They had a nice entrepreneurship background and all this. So I saw like what that world can be too. And I knew that there's a lot of success there as well. So I had like the best of both world mindsets. And once I got into something and I achieved it, I knew it was time to move on. So I hit the Air Force and I was like, you get to that point, Josh, you know this, Philip, you know this. Everyone listening that was in the military knows this. It's like you're approaching your 10 years active. People are pressuring you. Okay, if you're going to do that, you're going to do your 20, because if not, it doesn't make sense. Like, why would you put all that time in? But in my head, I was like, this is nothing. I've seen this is successful, sure, but this is more like purpose driven for me. But if I want to make money and all this kind of stuff, there's another world that I know about, that I was raised in.
Mhm.
That's what I have to do. And I need to learn that. And it's my time to do that now. The first thing I did in my mind was research and said, listen, I got to reinvent myself. And the way I'm going to do that is through education. I already had my bachelor's degree. And now it was time to add to that. And I knew I wanted to get into business and kind of learn a little bit more. And more so, I wanted to get into a good network with Southern California, and USC is like there. So I found this MBV program, which was like a godsend, applied for it, had my uncle, who's like the epitome, my uncle that married in, who is the epitome of successful military guy. I didn't know him too well, but I got to know him as I lived out here. Vietnam vet, got out during Nam, was a Marine, radio operator, infantry grunt in Nam, gets out, kind of turns into a hippie for a little bit, which I always grill him on, which is hilarious. He shows me photos of him, like long hair. It's great. And then gets into corporate America, works his way up, just like badass, and ends up being the director of communication for Warner Brothers Studios, like big time executive stud. And he was the one that made me realize I wanted to live out here. He'd fly me out here for movie premieres. That's where I met Arnold Schwarzenegger for the first time, like shook his hand, just a tough guy, like all around tough guy. So I had him write me a letter to get to the MBV, and right away he was like, okay, this makes sense. Let's at least get this guy an interview.
Yeah.
And ended up sneaking in.
Arnold was at Gold yesterday.
Oh, he's there every day. He's doing good.
Yeah.
He's back.
Fuck, he was doing back.
Oh, nice.
I was like, God damn, how old are you, dude?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I saw something in a podcast with him. He's like, physical exertion and stuff mentally helps me. And I'm not going to stop that. So yeah, I'll do that until I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, keep going, man. Sorry.
But yeah, that's how I found the MBV. And that was a big changing point in my life into what got me into what I am now. Which differentiated myself and allowed me to realize that, hey, sure, I had this whole military career, but okay, now let's move on to the next thing and commit. And you can do it. So that was great.
Big key word here, reinvention. And I want everybody, and we always, kind of nudge folks to, hey, jot down some notes. It's the way that we make things real, right? We have to write things down. It helps blow the fog away. So big key word here, reinvent yourself. We are constantly faced with that opportunity and sometimes requirement, particularly in those transitions. So any of you guys who are looking at your transitioning from something to something, it's an active reinvention, sort of this vision quest, right? And Josh, that's what you did. A vision quest involves going to a new place to pursue a upgraded vision for who you're going to be, right, in the world.
Yeah.
And listen, this is kind of where Trident comes in now, right?
Yeah, Trident comes in, but even before that, it was kind of finding what I wanted to be, right? And I find a lot of military members or police officers or whatever the case may be, they're in that mindset. We'll just say military because that's what I lived. And you do your 10 years, or you even do your 20, and your reinvention is kind of going into the same thing that you already did. That could be being another police officer, a firefighter, an agent, all that kind of stuff, working for the government again because you were comfortable. And that is all hunky-dory, like cool. I respect that a lot. But there's some people that only do it because they feel like they have to do that and they can't do everything else. And why waste all of that experience I had and not, use it again for something else? Or I have all the experience that I know, right? And I'm going to be my own worst enemy that people can't relate to. So I have to do this other thing, even though I don't want to. I know I want to do something else, but I can't. So they they reinvent themselves into something that isn't necessarily reinventing and going from a government job to a government job. Instead of realizing that there's a lot of things that translate, it's just going to take a little bit of effort and grit and communication to get into something that you truly want to do. You have to take that time to figure out what that is. And that's what I used the business school to find out really what I'd want to do. Because I could have gotten law enforcement. I could have done that, but I didn't want to do that. I did my law enforcement military career and I want to try something different.
Did MBV, was that the incubator for Trident, or did you have that cooking before?
No. So MBV was definitely the incubator for Trident. It was the incubator for this whole transition thing. Just help being around veterans, right? But the way that Trident started is Eric Johnson, who is I'm the co-founder of Trident. He's the founder. He started it already and was in my same class. And I didn't know this guy from Adam. I just saw a guy, and I just I gravitate towards people that I think are interesting. And I'm a very curious person. I like to get to know you. He was the complete opposite of me, personality wise. I mean, you couldn't get more yin and yang. but there was something interesting about him. And I knew I wanted to get into business. And I remember and Eric's going to laugh at this because I tell him this all the time. But I remember watching something and it was like, founders of companies, actual founders of very successful companies, there's just something different about them. It just is. They have to get to that gear and there's just something different. And Eric, like I saw that he had that something different. There's really no word to describe what that is, but it's something there, like your Elon Musks and your, all those types of people, right? So I got to know him and he's an extremely, extremely intelligent person and great buddy of mine. And I loved the coffee stuff. And I knew I wanted to get into business. I just didn't know really how. And at the time I had some, disposable income and I ended up being the first investor. He came up there, gave a little pitch of his business. And I was like, hey, this is cool. And it wasn't because I was so excited to be part of a coffee company. Like I didn't care about that really. I was so excited to get into my business world with somebody I can relate to. And I think I have faith in this guy. That's what excited me. And that's kind of how it started. And now we added on a third MBV guy, Derek Menson, a year later.
Hell yeah.
We're here, this nationwide brand that's raising.
Hey, bring one of those, the bags over, show it to the camera.
Yeah.
I know you're wearing it on your shirt, but come on, let the people see.
Yeah. So we're nitro cold brew company. I drink all my cold brews and I give them away all the time. My job within the company is like biz dev and sales, so I'm always smoozing people and giving away and talking to people. But yeah, we're a health and wellness nitro cold brew company based in San Diego, and we specialize in nitro cold brew. We have our first to market retail shops. It's like a tap room vibe, and we complement our coffees with keto donuts. So we're like the healthy version of Dunkin' Donuts, basically.
Dude,
and it's fun. It's fun. And it's fun learning about business because we didn't really have the craziest background in it. We just do it and we get it done. And we're a successful company right now that's grown. So listen, I'm sitting here still when I say have these conversations or I'm pitching these multi-millionaires that are moguls in business. I'm wow, like, okay, cool. Like I have a seat at the table. Like we did this.
Hey, we thank you for listening to the Winner Folsom podcast. Just a couple quick notes. First, if you are a man and you're looking for an honorable and inspiring group of men to hold you accountable and challenge you to grow in your relationships, your fitness, your career, your finances, and your life, go to www.k4men.com. And if you are a veteran, first responder, or man or woman who deals with trauma, and you are looking for some resiliency tools and skills for you, your team, and your organization, go to valorresiliency.com. Hope to see you there. Back to the podcast.
Yeah. So, hey, Josh, you've done a lot with co-founders lab, and I mean that's one of your kind of wheelhouses that I've learned a lot from you about.
Yeah,
I was actually going to say I was going to show you this. I got a trident on my on one of my tattoos. So I like the trident. There's a lot of
Yeah, it's a good symbol and a lot of really cool meaning behind it that we like to use to attach to the emotionality of our brand, right? To empower yourself to be the best version of yourself. And we start by giving you a healthy fuel instead of these sugary coffees and energy drinks. Like we're giving you healthy fuel, and now like let's go out there and get after it.
Competitors with, of course, the other big veteran started coffee brand.
Yeah. But listen, here's the thing. It's funny. That's too easy. I love when people bring this up. And my comeback is very simple. There's 7.2 billion people in this world, and no one has loyalty or an attention span. So there's enough to go around.
Okay.
Completely. Nice. And you learn from it. One thing I've learned, I'm good friends with the CEO of Groundworks Coffee, which is a huge brand right up here.
Yeah. Right by my house.
Yeah, let's bring your enemies closer, right? That's whatever that old adage is, and it works. Like we're not going away. They're not going away. Trident's not going away. Black Rifle Coffee's not going away. So let's figure out how we can best, get to the masses and have fun and be profitable. And
yeah. One thing I really like too is I'm hearing your transition because you're dead on. A lot of veterans end up going into fire or police because they try to reintegrate in the world. They're coming from an operating system of, the military, which is basically here's how it works. And you follow these protocols. And if they move up the chain of command, they're used to people doing what they say they're going to do, even if it's shadowy, right? In the military, doesn't mean you're always exemplifying the best leadership. There's some epic leaders and there's some people that just move up the rank and end up being in militant roles. And then you get out of that and you try to bust somebody's ass and they're like, what the fuck are you doing? This doesn't work in, regular business and culture. So it doesn't mean you can't strive to do that. But I think there's oh man, how do I operate or how do I behave when I come out of it? And so a lot of them go back into that type of culture where it's, hey, it's an honor-based culture. I'm safe here. If I use my old strategies of what I was taught, I'm not looked at as crazy. But what I love, that totally acceptable if somebody does that. But what I really like what you did is, hey, I'm going to do what's uncomfortable. I'm going to figure out what I want to do in life. And again, if it ends up landing on, I want to go back into military or recommit to military or fire, police, or another similar system, or how do I apply my skill sets, reinvent myself? And entrepreneurship is a warrior game. And so that's what I love about it is you're like, oh, I had to adapt myself a little bit. I'm going to have to learn some leadership principles. I'm going to have to learn business.
Allies, risk.
Yeah.
Fucking
numbers.
It's a war strategy.
Numbers, finances, there's plateaus. You got business is like this and then plateau and then this and then plateau. And every time you hit a plateau, you got to fucking pivot and go a different direction. So I'm just curious, how have you seen your military experience or warrior experience translate into the entrepreneurship game? And are you finding fulfillment at the same level that you found in military culture in your entrepreneurial venture?
Yeah, man, you hit a lot of things on the head right there. You're totally spot on. How the military's helped. I mean, the really easy things are the leadership and all that kind of stuff, right? That's easy. And the discipline is key, especially for entrepreneurship. But the biggest thing I would say, how it's helped me, would be just the determination and I hate saying these like easy words to say, but it's true. Like the determination and the resiliency that's involved with getting through all the crap that the military throws at you makes life a lot easier when you get out of the military. And entrepreneurship's like that too. Taking the good with the bad and working through problems and just not giving up. Like in the military, when you're running or you're working out, or when I went to Raven school and you're just getting beat down for a month. And if you give up, you're not a Raven. But if you stay with it, you become a Raven. That's what happens in entrepreneurship. When you just keep getting all these no's, or something breaks, or you're losing money right now and you're fucking terrified, you just don't give up. Like the military taught me that attitude. And how I was raised a little bit too is, if you surround yourself with a good network, if you have something that you want to work towards and you have some of the skills to get there, you can keep learning those skills, and you have an attitude not to give up, you can literally do anything you want, especially nowadays, because everything's at your fingertips to learn, like everything. And people are very willing to help you. You just have to get out of your own way. That would be the biggest thing, would be like the resiliency aspect and like the team stuff, and relying on your team, which I learned a lot in the military. Like really get out of your own way and rely on your team. Get out of your ego and bring that to entrepreneurship, or in business. Because I did get into consulting for a little bit too. It's the same principle.
No, this is great. And the reason I want to do it is Philip and I also do a lot of work with suicide prevention, and the veterans that unfortunately get blown up either emotionally, physically. There isn't resiliency training in the military. It's slowly starting to be embedded, but you're taught resiliency to get up and go back to the battlefield and focus on the battle. You're not taught how to check your emotional state and to figure out, which we were talking a little bit before we jumped on here, of how do I actually flop the hood and notice my indicators if I'm emotionally okay. And then what happens is a lot get, spun out and then end up throwing the card of disabled, which is totally cool, but They get stuck in that story. And that's where it's really hard, is like, yeah, some guys need to be rehabilitated, brought back in. But I know a lot of veterans, including, it sounds like you, and I got another good buddy that's a sniper. I mean, man, he had a lot of fucked up shit that happened when he was, at war. But instead of playing the card of like, I need help and I can't get out of this, which is one way we can go, he chose to put that in. And again, I'm not shaming. So if anybody's listening that's in that current state, not shaming you. I'm just saying, I think the same skill set it takes to like throw up the hands and say, fuck this, I got abandoned, nobody took care of me, like I need fucking help. And then we get stuck in that, is where we see a lot of guys, unfortunately, instead of using that to say, hey, I'm choosing to point this in a different direction, to weaponize myself, to not let that old wounding and story take me out, but instead to actually elevate me. And I think I just want to paint that picture, because I see you taking all the shit that happened and choosing to point it in a direction. Doesn't mean you don't have trauma or wounding or all the same shit. You're just pointing it at a different direction. And so I want to just talk about that for a little bit, because I think it's somebody may be listening that goes, oh shit, I just need to point it in a different direction and I can get myself out of this hole.
And I wanted to add just the terminology for the people listening that part of what Joshua Wenner was talking about is the D is disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder versus post-traumatic stress growth. So it's the same moment of your choice when you're looking at the reinvention process. So do I want to do this, identification around disorder, or is there a course correction and reinvention about, can I take these skills, this experience, and have it, even if it was hard, and have it own the transformational quality of that experience, so that I'm reinvented in a different place that serves myself and my people. And that is seeming to have most of the biggest impact in the resiliency space. Philosophically, the men and women who adopt post-traumatic growth philosophy are actually doing better than the disorder qualification. So, and you embody that, Josh.
No, I mean, Philip, shit, if you can we can figure out how to even change the PTSD into PTS, whatever, growth, that's a huge step. Because PTSD is such a negative connotation.
I don't use the D at all.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Actually, think about it.
Fucking disorder.
Man, this is something that is near and dear to me, and I hope one day I make it in this world big time. And my big thing is I want to give back to veterans, and not just vets, anyone reintegrating, and really help out that and endangered species. Those are like my big things. But there's so many nuances to the veteran getting out, and it's hard, and I get it. And I understand the government and the people, like, that's a lot of pressure on them too. There's so many layers, right? There's layers of the trauma. Let's, like, right away, like, you go to war, you see some things, a lot of veterans do. That's a lot. And you got to live with that forever. Cool. Get it. There's layers to your life was so crazy and convoluted for so many years. You lived in so many different places. I'm sure you got divorces or whatever. Your marriage was crazy. The discipline, the yelling, the uniforms, there's that too. Then there's layers of, okay, now I'm in my late 20s or my early 30s. I got to completely reinvent myself. I got to figure that out. What's next? I have no idea. There's those layers. Then while you are reinventing yourself, at one point you might have been leading 200 troops, and now you're in an entry-level program for a consulting firm or what have you, and
you're shooting a missile that costs $500,000 with a button.
Yeah.
And now you're not even fucking allowed to use the cash register.
Yeah. Exactly.
I was fucking driving a $10 million vehicle.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess what I'm getting at is there's so many layers, and I feel bad for people that have to peel them back, because that's why we're at now. So what I do when I talk to vets that are maybe going through a tough time, and it doesn't matter what type of, you could be a veteran that's living on the street, which is horrible, or a veteran that's like, oh, I'm lost in life. Like, what I say is, first and foremost, the government does give you a lot of tools to go after. They make it difficult, very difficult, but go after them. Put your pride aside. If you think you have pride and you're not injured, you don't have a disability, you have a disability. I don't care if you never get injured. You just went through whatever, 4 years, 8 years, 10 years of this crazy mental, tough, nuts stuff. And now you have to reinvent yourself. Have the government help you subsidize.
And for all the guys listening and ladies listening, get your hearing checked.
Yeah.
You're fucking disabled.
Yeah.
You're disabled. If you're around big guns and big engines, you're disabled. Claim it.
Yep. Yeah. So, like, go after whatever that is. Like, use your GI Bill. Like, there's so many things you can go after and do. Now, listen, if you want to get into the FBI and stuff, like, do your research. Like, there is that stuff too, but do your research. But, Joshua, you hit it there's veterans that will kind of lean on that as a crutch. And I think how did you phrase it? They'll throw
we see they get stuck in it. And I think they get stuck by instead of acknowledging I have this fucking disability now, and I'm going to use the tools and fucking fight to learn the tools to, like, reintegrate back into life. Instead, I feel like they kind of get stuck behind it, and they use that, and then they can't get out of it. It's almost that becomes their now overarching story. That it doesn't dismiss the trauma that there, the pain or the stress that's there, but the story that they claim around it stops them from moving back into life. Instead of saying, yes, this is here, and fuck this, I'm going to overcome it. I'm going to find a way through. I'm going to, for my kids, for my family. So I think that's what we're discussing is, like, doesn't mean you don't have it. You could have it on both sides. You could be fucked up. Like, a lot of us are, I'm fucked up. Like, a lot of us are fucked up, but we're fighting our way back into life. And that's why we do the resiliency. That's why we're open to going through the suck or the suffering, just different types of suck that allows us to come back, which is humility and, face doing the work, finding therapists, doing the stuff that's like, all right, let me handle these areas as I'm fighting my way back into life. So I think that's what I'm just wanting to paint a picture around. It's not easy for any of us, but some men or women choose to fight their way back in and reclaim it. And I just want to paint that because it breaks my heart when I see very competent guys, men and women, who gave their life for service and did these insane roles and went through hell and have heavy trauma on their backs. But instead of applying that towards fighting their way back into life, they almost get stuck in that, and their life starts to fall apart. And that story becomes the overarching story. So I think that's just what I want them to know they're not alone. We're in it with you, but we're changing the story into one that we're fighting to live again. And the other one, it feels like they're almost fighting to stay there a little bit. So I want to be sensitive around this. I'm not trying to, again, I want to make sure I'm not shaming anybody who feels like because that is immobilizing. I just want to say there's another route around it and you're not alone.
Yeah. And it's finding that route. And listen, you're not shaming at all. When I hung up completely, right? I had 13 years and got out during the pandemic through a weird thing. Like I told you, really good career. And the pandemic ended my enlistment completely to the point now I have enough disability. I can't go back in. And it was a lot to swallow. I didn't even have like a real goodbye because I couldn't even go to the base because of the pandemic, all that. So I did one of those, grow my beard out, didn't shower for a few days. What the hell am I going to do? I can't believe I lost the military because that was my safety net. That was my safety. Even as a reservist, if Trident failed, okay, I'll go be good in the military. It was too easy for me. So I lost that and I felt that. But the biggest thing for me that got me through it is realizing we're not alone. And there's more to that, the realizing we're not alone, in my opinion. Sure, we're not alone with fellow military members going through it. That's a no-brainer. But we're not alone with everybody going through everything. Because if you get out of your own way, you're going to realize, sure, there's a lot of military members going through the same thing. Talk to them. But unfortunately, most of the time, it's like negative on negative. And you just associate things and you guys end up we end up bantering off the negatives. You go out and you find friends that are doing other things. Maybe it's like me, I want to get entrepreneurship. So I've made some really good friends that never served in the military that are just murderers in entrepreneurship. They are doing well. And I befriended them. And now I teach them leadership skills. They teach me entrepreneurship stuff. We bounce things off each other. And then I realized, dude, they have PTSD. They have been through some insane stuff to get to where they are now and build their company or what have you. Okay, cool. I held a gun and went to Iraq, but they've done stuff too. And that's not something that you can't negate. So if they can get through it, we can get through it. And you guys build off each other. So you got to get out of your own way and get out of that dark circle. And don't just surround yourself with veterans to get you out. Surround yourself with everybody. Who cares?
I want to add one thing into all of our stories here that it is maybe so obvious that we don't even see it anymore. But a lot of the transitioning men and women, when they're leaving their honor-based culture of service and they enter this pride-based world, they let themselves go physically. And how are you supposed to maintain your mental and emotional health when you are collapsing physically? And I've seen you both at the gym. I've seen you guys, and how important it is.
Yep.
So I want to just throw everybody out that who are watching this and transitioning and reinventing and even coping. Every hero's journey starts warrior first. That's the archetype. This is the decisive action, the discipline. It creates self-esteem. It creates confidence. It creates momentum. So all of us can do some push-ups and put down the ho-hos and, handle that because it's something within your sphere of control.
Sure.
The rest of it's very ambiguous and vague and go get some help. I get all that. But you can handle the physical stuff and you're going to be a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, I would also say a really good observation, Philip. And I would also say military, if this is a military or even fire police, it's highly looked for as you're recruiting in a company. You want a business partner, you want somebody on your team that shows somebody that has discipline, that has focus, that can get a mission done. Your military or background cred and that culture goes a long way. We love that in our communities of leadership guys, we're like, oh, where's our military guys? Because we know they'll show up and follow mission. But to Philip, to your point, if you let yourself go, like
you lost your cred.
You've lost your cred.
You don't get to play the warrior card that gets you in the door. 100% of the time, you fucking play that card. You got an interview.
Yeah, you walk in the door, you
sloppy, show up fucking sloppy. It's like, oh, that's sad.
What doesn't matter? It doesn't match. Oh, here's this military guy XYZ, and again, civilian war doesn't even know. They just hear military, and they don't know. But if you walk in and you're taking good care of your health and your mental, physical place is on track, or at least your physical is on track. Let's put it that way. Their initial judgment is like, oh, this guy shows up on time, guy or girl, shows up on time or early, and you take care of your physical health. It already matches like, oh, this is a competent human. So I think it's a really good point is if you're listening to this and you're in transition, like start first getting yourself on really good physical, mental health. It's a resiliency protocol. 2, it puts you in a good self. And 3, it puts you more viable in front of other candidates when you walk in a room, because like we have high standards, like warrior culture has high standards and will play at a high level. So if you embody that, you're already going to be before other candidates, even if you feel like you don't have, like, do you guys hire military in Trident?
Yeah.
Or first responders, or like, and why? Like, why would that?
Yeah. Just like, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. We associate a little bit, but you already know that they know how to work in a team environment. They know the discipline. Instead of questioning everything, they'll just figure out how to get it done because we just figured things out. Yeah, just tough working, but totally agree. I mean, when you see somebody that is physically in shape and takes care of themselves, you associate that with, okay, their work must replicate that as well. If you see somebody that's let themselves go, they go, okay, their work must replicate that as well. And there's studies that are out there that show that. So, and guys, like truly there are. And also the biggest thing, especially if you're transitioning out of military law enforcement, what working out does is keeps you on a routine. And what you lose when you transition out is a routine. And we need routines. Human beings in general need routines. So if you don't know what your purpose is yet, cool. Your purpose is to stay in shape and look good and figure out your purpose, stay in a routine. Simple as that.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Put in pipe and smoke, people watching.
Plus, like, your mental health stuff. I had a bad call yesterday, and it didn't go the way I wanted to go. And I was just amped. Went down to Gold's, punched the bag like 100 times. I was good. Back in action. Like got my dopamine stuff flowing, like literally physiologically, it helps you. So we're not just shooting smoke out there.
And I think it's also valid. We were chatting before the call that the culture is changing and there is more resiliency, and some of us, more stoic, let's call it warrior type culture who've dismissed emotion in general, are learning that some of us that don't feel any emotion, it's part of our path to healing. And I'd say the flip side, which we also talked about, is some of those people that get stuck in their emotions, they need actually more of the rigid structure, and a little bit less emotion as part of their healing. So I think we're in a new way where we're learning to balance a little bit more who we are to come back to life again.
Yeah. And I don't even know, it's a way that it's always should have been, in my opinion. Right. And it's not even, it's just like politics right now, the far left, the far right. We just need the independents to rise up. We just need the middle. It's the same thing with this. You don't need to be this huge stoic, I'm pushing my feelings down till I implode and have a heart attack at 40. And you also don't need to be this running around crybaby blaming everything for everything. Find that middle ground in everything in life and you'll be successful. You will be.
Cheers to that. Cheers to that.
Hey, man.
Not that simple.
Hey, I think you're going to run for office at some point. But have you thought about it right now?
My dad did a little bit of politics. Shout out Dad. He's the city councilman in Poland, Ohio. Very proud of him.
Okay.
My first dip in politics is nothing. I'm backing a city councilman. Shout out Albin. He's running for city council in Santa Monica. I like what he's going after. I got to know him real well, and I'm backing him. That's the first kind of thing I've done. But yeah, I don't know.
Listen, as the old guy, elder wisdom character on this podcast right now, you have a destiny in politics. And I will vote for you. You're that guy.
I appreciate that, Philip.
Yeah.
If there's a way to clean it up a bit, or I could actually do something different, that would be something in the future. But we all have seen the mask come off, in my opinion, in the last few years, and it's a scary thing. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, who knows?
That's good.
I like local politics right now, because local politics, they affect you, right? If you keep your head down and you only love you and yours, care about your local politics. Like
100%.
that'll-
School board.
Oh yeah.
For all the people who are talking about personal growth junkies and going to retreats and endless fucking personal growth, like that shit's got to come home. Like there are school board seats that are open, right? So, serve. And that's part of the conversation is that we need to serve something, right? Serve a company, a cause, endangered species, whatever that thing is, find some way to serve, right? Because without that North Star to navigate off of, life gets pretty bleak and pretty lost pretty quickly. So,
yeah, I mean, that was the biggest thing, right? I mean, we keep talking about this transition, how tough it is. The military purpose is so intense and immense, right? Like you're part of something at such a young age. We just said you're in charge of 100 people. You're in charge of millions of dollars. There's a time I would carry a cell phone around and I'd get a hit for a 3-day Raven mission to XYZ country, and I'd drop what I'm doing and leave for it. Like that doesn't happen. You see that in movies. I'm like, this is so cool. It's what I live. And it's over, and it just ends. And now, like that huge purpose that cannot be replicated is completely taken out from underneath your feet. You got to find out what that next one is. Like you can't just ignore it and get your 9 to 5 and whatever. It's gonna be rough.
Wow, Josh Moffie, dude, just filled with good vibes, good vision. Find your purpose, folks, and get in shape. Stay connected to all of the code and the ethos and the ethics that got you here. Don't abandon all of that as you transition dance partners, right? Make sure that you're keeping all your skills sharp. Trident Coffee, super cool. I want to hear about connecting with that. MBB program, again, super cool. Shout out to all the MBB folks at Marshall. How do people get hold of you? How did they buy some delicious Trident coffee?
Yeah, too easy to buy Trident right now. You can go on our website. Obviously, there's always some codes, and you can reach out to me, and I'll give you even more discounts to try it. Right? We're in Sprouts nationwide. You can find our cold brew cans. We're all over Southern California and like Gelson's and stuff like that. And then if you find yourself down in San Diego, we have 2, soon to be 3 retail shops. You can come visit and say hi. One in Imperial Beach, one on Coronado Island, and one soon to be in Pacific Beach. So wherever you live around the country, we can get it to you. We can mail it to you. Try it out. Appreciate the backing. Like, please drop me a line, and you can reach me, Josh at tridentcoffee.com. Shoot me an email. Follow me on Instagram, JJ Moffie. DM me, whatever you guys want. Yeah, like please, whatever you guys want. I love sharing my story and giving any tips I possibly can to get you through whatever you want to get through or whatever you're interested in. If it's business, if it's just shooting the shit or talking about the crappy Cleveland Browns, because I'm from Ohio, we can talk about the crappy Cleveland Browns. I don't care.
Nice.
Awesome.
Hey, it's a pleasure. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, hey, we always leave people with the challenge. And when we're heading out, so when you think about things we've talked about, it could be purpose. Like one of the things that comes up pretty strong could be resiliency. It could be, getting back in the ring and fighting. It could even be your health. Like what would be a challenge that anybody listening, we could leave them with to like take action? We want to leave action, always an outcome. What would you think would be something valuable to leave people with?
I'll give 2. I'll give an easy one, which is just was it Admiral McCraven? He said, making your bed, right? He wrote the book, Make Your Bed. I took that on, and I, came from the military too, but a lot of people do not do it. Make your bed every morning. And it's something. It is like you can see my bed's made. It's truly something. Very simple. So just do it. And soon it'll start being one of those things where, okay, I can do that. Now I can do this. Now I can do this. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And another thing would be, again, kind of leaned into earlier, which is get out of your own way, reach out to people, not just people that you can associate with, reach out to other people. Maybe it's an interest. Maybe you do want to get into business. Maybe you like my story. Get out of your own way and reach out to me. Reach out to anybody, set up a coffee. You'll be extremely surprised how willing and wanting people will help out a veteran or a law enforcement officer or anybody at all that's curious about a different life or doing something different. They won't say no. They'll be extremely happy, and they will also help you. Like they're maybe in a monetary way, or they might have a job. So just do that. I challenge you to do that. It'll change your life.
Bravo. Josh, stay in touch, man. I'm going to hit you up for some coffee. We got a men's retreat coming up soon. We might need some coffee for it. I'm gonna hit you up.
Whatever you guys need. We can do some arm curls at Gold's. Like, yeah, I'm down. I'm down. Guys, thanks so much. I love what you're doing, and I'm so excited about it. And if I could do anything, I'm here for you.
My man.
Such a pleasure.
Brother.
Hey guys.
Happy Thursday.
Yeah, let's get after it one more day.
All right, my man. See you out there.
Bye.